Welcome to Stephen King Saturday Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Episode 3, Umney's Last Case. This episode actually reminded me of Star Trek, The Next Generation, The Holodeck.
Oh.
So in that, there's episodes where Data is like a private eye. And he loves like Sherlock Holmes novels. So, are you familiar with The Next Generation?
I watched The Next Generation like when I was younger. Like I definitely was on TV, but I didn't watch like all the episodes.
Sure.
And I probably
Do you remember the holodeck episodes where it's like the kind of noir,
it sounds familiar, but I'm not super familiar with it, so I'll say no.
Yeah, it plays out kind of like this. They go in, and that was a really fun thing to do in Star Trek. It was a way to kind of mix things up, where you're not just doing, it's the Klingons, right? Like like they would do every week. Don't get me wrong, I love all that shit, but like to kind of get them to go back to like the 1930s and do like detective stuff, and for the actors, right, to all kind of play different characters than they usually. You don't have to have Picard and all these guys. You get to kind of play different roles. So it is fun, and I feel like most shows when they go for too many seasons, they start to do this where they take you away from the characters that you're playing and figure out a way to like, we're gonna tell the history of Sicily, Alaska, and you guys are just gonna play the original founding fathers or whatever of this town, and that's a freaking Northern Exposure reference. But yeah, anyways, okay. But with this, it had that kind of flavor to it because obviously we find out, spoilers, that this is all a fantasy. And really, at the core of this story is like, and of course, because this is Stephen King's work, this is people who, and I'm one of them, not to this high of a degree, but people's desire to lose themselves in fantasy to not deal with reality.
Sure. Well, and yeah, especially with like if you are losing a child, which is what happens, right? Like there's a lot of people that are going to cope with it by escaping, and it's like you're either going to escape through fantasy and through, whatever, or through like drugs and alcohol. Like it's hard to deal with, so that's definitely the core of this story. I thought it was like, aside from the child death, I thought it was kind of a fun episode. Like in the beginning, I was into the like, the 1930s like noir detective vibe. I like the way everybody talks back then too, and I thought the actor who plays Umney, and obviously he plays whatever the other guys. The writer, it's the same, the writer. But he did a good job, I thought, at playing the detective character, and I liked his performance. I thought it's definitely a caricature, but it was cool.
Are you unfamiliar with William H. Macy? Like, is this somebody you've...
No, I've seen him before. I don't know off the top of my head what I've seen him in, but I recognized him as an actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to watch more Paul Thomas Anderson movies. But yeah, William H. Macy is great. He's got a lot of really rad films. I've probably seen, oh my God, 70 movies with him in it. He's a very familiar face. But anyway. So I don't know. I'm whatever on this episode. I definitely... The ending is so abrupt.
Oh my God, the ending is awful.
And you're
I don't even know what it's supposed to mean.
Yeah.
He's coming
after him. He's going to take his place. It almost feels weird. Like the ending of an episode.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, which it technically is, but it's like this story's over.
Yeah, I definitely don't like the ending. It was way too abrupt and very unsatisfying, but like what I like about the episode, it's definitely not my favorite that we've watched so far by any means, but I like when things start to go weird in his reality. Like I've always thought it's cool, like gimmick to have characters who start to become aware that they're a character in somebody else's story. So like when the diner's closed and the blind kid's like beating him up and all this stuff, like I liked those aspects. Yeah. And that part kind of felt, it felt like a Twilight Zone type of episode.
Yeah.
Which I was into. But then I think the second half, like once they switch places, like fully switch places, the writer is just kind of like pretending to be a detective and he just like sucks at it. And then Umney is like, I don't know. I kind of was like thinking he was going to try and like fall in love with the wife and be like such a better fit for her. And like they're happy together. And then the writer is like just miserable over there because he's like, I miss my microwave and all this stuff.
Right.
But instead it's like Umney falls for the pool girl because she's modeled off of like clearly his receptionist or whatever was modeled off of her. So like it makes sense that he's attracted to her. But yeah, I don't know. I think that it just goes downhill in the second half, and it just is like it kind of loses it, like the weirdness that it had going on and the funness, and then the abrupt ending just made it like all the worse.
Sure, because once they switch places from there, nothing's all that interesting.
Yeah.
Because there just needs to be something happening, and it just feels like while technically things are happening, it just doesn't go anywhere. It's like, like you said, and that's what I thought was going to happen, that, Umney was going to be all pissed off that he had to leave his world, but then he falls for his wife and he's given her a better life. And then, the writer's like pissed off and he's like, I hate this world. Never mind. I want back. And the guy's like, you can't have your life back. And then writes him away or something. Like, now I have your computer and I can use you to get rid of you. Like that kind of stuff. That would have been a much more interesting thing. As far as the pool girl goes, I will say that it's very obvious to me that the writer in this like had a thing for the pool girl.
That's what I was saying.
And is like wrote her in here so he could like fantasy screw her.
Yeah, that's what I was meaning. So it makes sense that Umney's character would be attracted to her.
Because he wrote him that way. But that's the only thing that's even slightly interesting about this is like he wrote Umney to be kind of a two-timer and a womanizer, and it's like he can't break his programming, much like humans. We're kind of incapable of getting away from who we are, and Umney is just somebody who's like, I'm the Dame Slayer. But then he ends up with the pool girl, so why not the wife? I don't freaking know, because he looks like
she's too sad.
I guess.
I mean, and that was the other thing.
But he's probably still screwing around on the pool girl.
Yeah, really, just like the second half is like she, her husband's not there to be with her in the grief, and she can't handle the grief of losing a child alone, so she kills herself. Like it's just that's it, and it's very sad, but it is kind of uninteresting because of what we've already said. So
yeah. I grew up in California. Every single person in California had like a pool in their backyard. I saw a lot of pool people. No one looked like her. That's not what pool men or pool women look like. I just want to point that out. Even in Southern California, where like every 7 out of 10 women are beautiful, this is not the way pool people look. Okay. In my experience, I never saw one in my entire life. I thought it was pretty funny that his, pool woman was that attractive. The kid in this movie like dies from a cannonball. Like what the hell?
Oh yeah,
like, I guess he hits the bottom or something. I mean, kids are just
head on the bottom or like
clumsy little idiot.
Just like breathes in when he's I don't know.
It's got to be that.
Something like that, because like he doesn't like he's not near the edge. Like he jumps in. It doesn't look like it's super shallow.
Yeah, they don't do a good job of like showing us why he died. He does a cannonball, and I guess just doesn't come back up.
He's just like,
He's just an idiot. He just doesn't know like you have to swim back up. He's like, what's the next step again?
What do I do? He dies.
Yeah, pretty much. But at the end of the day, like all these kids in the pool are really young, and parents are like getting drunk watching a football game.
Like, there's
basketball?
nobody that's...
No, it's basketball.
The fact that nobody's there watching. Like,
nobody.
One parent, at least, would be chaperoning.
Dude,
and, like...
You got to.
What? Like, no way. Even if all the kids know how to swim...
This is the 90s. Although in
almost like the 80s.
It's supposed to be the 2000s, I think.
Well, they're irresponsible.
They are irresponsible.
All of them.
They are irresponsible. Yeah. 100%. I was like, dude, not one adult's watching a bunch of like minors that are like really young. We're not talking teenagers here.
No, they're like 6, 7, 8,
yeah,
like 10 maybe at the most.
I would not have my kids who are 10 with other friends who are around their age in the pool, like 10 of them in the pool by themselves right now.
Right.
I just would not do that.
No.
Right? They're just not...
Kids do dumb stuff.
They're not capable of helping one another out if something goes wrong. They don't have the attention span to pay attention to make sure everyone's okay. No. Right? When my friends and I were like 13, 14 and we were going in the pool, we were little jerks and all that stuff. But if something went wrong, we would have been able to take care of it. When you're 10, no way. No, maybe like that 1 in a million kid who's like smart enough to like, you know, you hear those stories on the news or something, like 6-year-old calls cops to save mom's life, right? Like that happens every once in a while, but they don't have the other stories on the news. Like 6-year-old doesn't call cops because she's an idiot.
6-year-old performs CPR on drowning mom.
6-year-old just sits there and watches mom die. You don't see those stories on the news much.
No.
Yeah. Little idiot 3-year-old watches dad bleed to death.
Little idiot 3-year-old.
Why didn't you? They have like the friggin' mic in his face. Hey, idiot! How come you didn't call the police?
He's just like,
moron.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, a kid dies. I don't know what anyone thinks. Like, your marriage is falling apart, dude. I'm sorry. She's like, you're not there and all this. Like, come on, man. This is just par for the course. Of course, everybody's going to grieve in their own way. There's just no way. Especially when you don't have another kid, right? That you have to pull your shit together for. It's like, dude, I don't know, man. I think at that point, unless you're just different people, but for the most part, I think people like that just need to maybe just...
Well, yeah, I don't know.
I'm kidding. You probably should be able to work it out. I just, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's different because it's like, on one hand, like, you know, if you guys, like, if you have a good relationship, like, if everything's good before the kid dies, right? Like, you're in a loving relationship, obviously there still will be strain, but I think that you would still want to grieve together and, like, make it through. But I think for so many, it's like you'd look at them and be like, you know, just all you would think about is your child that you've lost. So, like, that's why a lot of people would, you know, end up splitting, of course, because it's, like, way too painful to think of. But, I don't know.
I find it odd that the wife is, like, talking to Umney when he's there. Because, okay, question. This is off topic. I'll get back to that one. It's still relevant to the episode, obviously. But a question. This would make the most sense to me. Because it is odd to me that the wife buys into the fantasy a little too easily. So the question is, does the wife think that her husband has taken on a different persona to not deal with what happened? And she's just playing along with it. Or does she actually think he switched places with a character in his book? Like, went into his book. Because she accepts that way too easily.
It's just reality adjacent, I feel like, at that point, if she does. Because I actually do think that she ends up accepting it. I think that she is just like, yeah, he's a different person. But I also am like, I don't know. Because in the beginning, I was like, okay, she thinks that he's like you said, he's just like has a different personality to cope. But either way, she's into it, and like she because it's different, and it's not him like ignoring her, and like he's like new and different and all that stuff, right? So either way, it's still kind of just sad that she's like trying to seduce him and trying to like, get him to be with her so that she can feel something, and then he just, like, totally rejects her and goes for the younger pool girl. And, like, obviously with that scene, too, the fact that they're using the water guns, that was, like, the last thing she saw her son with.
Sure.
And, like, Umney doesn't know, the pool girl doesn't know, like, they're not doing it to be mean, they're just playing around, but, like, that's definitely, like, her breaking point, clearly, where then afterwards she's like, alright, bye, I'm dying.
And that's not her husband.
It's not.
Right? He doesn't owe her anything.
But if she thinks it's her husband,
yeah,
obviously that just piles on. And even if she's like, I know it's not my husband, it's still like, my husband's gone. Like, he literally left me to go live in another world, gave me this other, like, version of himself that isn't even himself and wants nothing to do with me. So either way, she's abandoned by her husband.
Right.
So, yeah. That sucks.
Right. So, anyway, but getting back, since that was a different side topic there, he's talking, okay, so I think it's the wife. I want to say she says it and then he says the other thing, but whoever says it, it's referred to that, I think it's the writer who says it about the wife. That's what it is. He's like, my wife thinks, but it might have been the wife who says it. Doesn't matter. Essentially what happens, though, it's relayed to Umney that either by the husband or the wife, by the writer or the wife, that he's sensitive in the books. And that when he started out writing him, he was more one-dimensional. Mm-hmm. And because what we're seeing of Umney's towards the end of the books, right? He's like closing the chapter, like it's done for him.
Yeah.
Right? This is his last case, right? This is his last book. So he's supposed to be his most three-dimensional.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be his most sensitive. What we see of Umney before the writer comes in, this dude is not sensitive at all and is one-dimensional as they get.
Absolutely, yeah.
So when they point that out, I'm like,
I know.
Wait, what? Sensitive? He fucking is cheating on everybody.
Yeah.
He, like, tells the girl, like, you drinking poison, eh? Fuck you, right? Like, yeah. I'm like, as he's, like, cheating on her right in front of her. Like,
I know. And then, like, with the kid, like, whenever the kid's like, I'm gonna see again. Or, like, yeah. I'll never, no, sorry. He says, I'll never see again. Yeah. And he's like, just stay in school.
Yeah, he doesn't care at all. He's not sensitive at all.
Such a funny response to me. And he's also mean to their dog, the corgi next door. Yeah, he's, like, but he's supposed to be, that's, like, the caricature of, like, 1930s, like...
Sure, but he's not sensitive.
Man.
And he's not three-dimensional.
No.
He is, like, as, like, cardboard as it gets. It's just, like... I'm the freaking alpha male of this decade with
exactly.
where there's nothing to me. I'm as surface level as it gets. There's nothing inside. I just want to bang chicks and solve cases, and I'm exactly how I present myself.
Yeah.
I have no depth to me. There's no intrigue. There's no nothing. It's just I'm cool detective guy who bangs chicks. That's it. There's no dimension to this character. Yeah. There's no sensitivity. So he's like, my wife really loves you because of how sensitive you are. More sensitive than I am. You always know what to say. You always know what to say.
That's just like a knock to the husband to be like, the one-dimensional character you wrote as like your macho fantasy is more dimensional and like sensitive than you are.
I guess. That's the only way to interpret it for me. So you're right. I'll go with that. I just found that really funny. Just like, he's not one-dimensional anymore? He's sensitive? Okay, if you say so. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's really it. It ends so abruptly. It's like, I'm going to learn how to read. I'm going to learn how to write. And I'm going to get you.
Yeah, he's like, I'm coming for you. And then, like, it ends. And we, like, both looked at each other. And we were just like...
So, did he get him? I mean, he kind of...
I don't know, I guess.
He already got him, though. Like,
he's already in there.
Why does he get to see his wife plummet to her death if he's not in her reality anymore?
I don't know. I was wondering that, too.
That made no sense to me.
No.
He left that world to forget it.
He feels it happening too, and then he's and then he like sees flashes of her falling outside like the building that he's in. I don't know.
He sucks at being a detective. He seems like he's unhappy there. Umney's unhappy where he's at. No one really wins, and he can't really get back at him because his life already sucks there. But
Umney would win in the end because Umney is like in the modern age, and even though he like misses, he's like homesick for his time. 1,000%, he's gonna be like, nah, this is better. Like we have all these other like conveniences and stuff, and I can still listen to music from the 30s and like. He can dress from the 30s if he wants. Like, literally, he can do all the things except, like, he won't go into a diner that there's, like, Tommy guns being shot by, like, fucking gangsters and stuff. Sure. But I think that with the writer, like, because he's not a character, he's, like, a full human that's now in this written, made-up world. You know, it's kind of like in a video game, how you can only go to, like, a certain, like, level, like, part of the map, and then it just is the wall or whatever.
Like Dark City.
Yeah, like that's what he's gonna start experiencing while he's there is like things aren't fully fleshed out because he didn't write everything. Like there's stuff missing, you know, like he'll try and talk to people about things and like, what is that? Like, I don't know what that is. I've never heard of it.
So obviously it would have made way more sense and it would have been a way cooler ending for Umney to start writing and screwing with his world.
Yeah.
Right? Because like, if we're really even thinking about this logically, the writer, whatever the hell his name was, I hate that we keep calling him the writer, but I just forgot and I honestly don't care. But like, he goes to this world and sends Umney out and is like, he's done. The world ends there.
Yeah.
There is no more world. Like, he built it, but it doesn't operate without the writer.
I know.
Right?
That's what I mean, yeah.
Like, he is God in that world. And so, like, without his computer, the world ceases to exist. So as soon as he sends Umney home, they should just black out because there's nothing more in that world.
Or at the very least, there's nothing new that will come.
Exactly.
Like, so all he has is just because, like, I honestly thought when he was standing there, like practicing his lines or what before he had a client, like picking up the phone, I was like, there's just gonna be nothing. Like,
I thought he was gonna walk out on the street and they were all just gonna be standing there inanimate because he hasn't been writing.
Yeah.
He can't write them anymore, and he's like, "What is this?"
Right.
And it's like Umney starts writing them to life, and they're kind of sitting there, and then he's like, you know, and then they turn into something, or then they attack him, right?
Sure.
So like as he writes, then they like come to life.
Yeah.
Right?
I like that.
I'm telling you, I can write shit so much better sometimes. It just gives me like...
I'm so much better than Stephen King.
No, I doubt Stephen King wrote it exactly like... Oh, maybe he did, but I just... Stephen King is good at writing books. Okay? Yes. He's not good at writing
Well, and it's
movies.
hard for people to... I think that like one thing about Stephen King is that like for adapting his works into film and television takes a certain like person who really understands like what King brings to the written page.
And you gotta change it.
And you do a lot of times have to like adjust it because it's for film, or you know, it's for a visual media versus just the written. So yeah.
So yeah, that's that. But anytime Umney's upset about being in the real world, he should just bang that pool girl and he'll feel so much better.
Probably.
That's my advice, Umney, if you're watching. All right. That's that. Till next week.